report. There's been quite a bit of internet activity on the rules. There's been some information and quite a bit of misinformation. And I was elected a member of the Rules Committee by the Texas delegation. Myself and Melinda Fredericks. And we began I'm going to tell you real briefly, chronologically, I think that'll make the most sense to you. We began our meeting Thursday, the week before the convention, for an orientation meeting, at which time we were told whatever we do Friday will be pretty much it. We'll do all the business on Friday, Saturday if we have to. But then we planned on Monday, but it turned out because of the hurricane, we ended up Tuesday. We'll have one final meeting. That one final meeting was just to rubber stamp what we did on Friday. We began Friday meeting, and out of the blue, one of the rules came up. One of the rules changes was that a presidential candidate would have the right, once a delegate is elected, to disavow the delegate, to kick him off the list. And we were thinking, no way in the world. What we said was, there's a principle involved here. The RNC nor a presidential candidate will tell Texas who they can or cannot send as a delegate. The original proposal was that they would pre-certify and approve, I believe was the verbiage, before the election. The compromise was, after you're elected, they could disavow. So, to me, one was just as bad as the other. Melinda and I signed the minority report, and then it became the way I termed it was, it wasn't a matter of a plain vanilla fight. It wasn't Reagan versus Ford. It wasn't Goldwater versus Rockefeller. It was George Washington versus King George. We had this concept that's called an election. When you have a congregation, delegates assembled to conduct business, and they elect a delegate from that state, then that's the person who is the delegate. We don't have anybody up top saying, no, you can't go. Once we signed the minority report, Melinda and I then worked very hard to get other people to sign the minority report. We alerted the grassroots leaders, and they began to alert you people, and the reaction of the grassroots was tremendous. I believe first and foremost, the victory we had was because we had so many prayers going up. The grassroots responded in a tremendous fashion. Your Texas delegation stood in unity against this power grab, and you should be very proud of them. If you're here and you remember the Texas delegation, delegate or alternate, would you please stand? Texas is by far the largest. And we began working, getting everybody activated, and at the risk of mentioning one leader but not mentioning all of them, in particular we had Clint Moore. Clint, would you stand up?
That's right.
Who were working behind the scenes, giving a call, pushing buttons, getting people activated, calling the right people. We ended up, I was calling one of the grassroots leaders to tell him, hey, we want you to be in charge of getting the minority report when we meet on Tuesday. Remember, Tuesday's supposed to represent what we did Friday. I called him like about Saturday, he's telling me, take it backwards. Anyway, I called him up and I told him, hey, I want you to lead her. He said, well, thank you, but I got news for you. We just met with the Romney people. The disavow language is now gone. They decided, they looked it over and they said, no, we've had enough of this. And what happened was they recognized the principle this should not happen. So that was dropped. And that was a major victory. They already printed up the booklets with the disavow language in it, and it was on our chairs. You have to understand, you just don't change the rules after that Friday meeting. But we did. Praise God. There were some other rules I want to go over real quickly. There were rules that to suspend the temporary rules, the number of states necessary went from 5 to 7. I opposed that. The number of states needed to nominate a president or vice president was raised from a plurality of 5 states to a majority of 8. I opposed that. One rule we did adopt that came to us from the RNC was if a state like Florida goes before they were allowed to, they go against the rules. They don't care about the rules, they're going to do what they want anyway. Instead of being having a penalty of 50% of delegation, the delegation will be reduced to 9 delegates. So it put a lot of sting into it. That applied to anybody. Okay, I'm going to get to that. Okay, and also one of the other changes was it used to be you had a plurality, you had a proportionality rule you had to follow. We got the proportionality rule made optional, so we can do it what we want to. We may want to take all proportional, all the way the convention adopted a modified winner take all. There was the Rule 12. Now, Rule 12 is the one that allows the RNC to change rules between the convention, but it was going to pass on a 2/3 vote. When Linda got up and got him to raise it to a 3/4 vote. It's also a 3/4 vote of the entire RNC, so if you're absent, that counts as a no vote. In addition, you have 10 days notification. We created a firestorm that began on Friday and culminated on Tuesday. So imagine what would happen if they tried to pull some shenanigans, and we have 10 days to work on. And the way I see it is, the first time they reap the wind. If they try some nonsense again, they're going to reap the whirlwind. And I follow the principle, trust but verify, and we're going to be watching very, very close to make sure they don't pull any nonsense, because we won't put up with it. They've seen it once, they'll see it again. Primarily that was it, and right now you have to go, the 4 carved-out states, but if you go in March, like we usually do, remember this was an exceptional year. Our primary got moved back quite a bit later than normally is. Normally we're early March. We can now go early March, and if we want, we can go proportional. If we want, we can go winner take all, or we can do it like we have a modified winner take all, and Texas can have a big impact. Now, real quickly, are there any questions on what I went over?
Who is they? Yeah, who introduced the rules?
Oh, we introduced the rules?
Right.
Okay. The person who introduced the rules on the Rules Committee, again, like I said, we had no notice, we didn't know anything about it. We were blindsided on it. The person that did it was a man named Ben Ginsburg. He is a lawyer out of Washington, D.C. He was basically the point man for Team Romney, I guess. How much Governor Romney actually knew about it, I don't know, but Ben Ginsburg was one that was pushed there. But thank y'all very much.